The latest movie in the Spider-Man universe dropped recently with Brand New Day, and so I rewatched all the 10 previous Spider-Man films as well as Brand New Day, and I'm going to give you my personal ranking from worst to best. As a warning, there will be spoilers for all the movies in this video so that I can fully explain what I liked and didn't like in each of them. If you want to see more content from me, don't forget to click that subscribe button and like this video. Let's get into this list. In last place is Spider-Man 3. This one is a total mess and cringe at times if I'm being honest. The way Venom is introduced kinda sucks, and I really hated how Peter acts in this one. He's an awful person and boyfriend, and I know that's down to the symbiote, but I still can't excuse it. He kisses Gwen in front of the world, and worst of all, kisses her in a way that was his and MJ's special upside down kiss. Then he has the audacity to ask why this is a problem when MJ is upset by it. The cringe dancing montage, poor treatment of Mary Jane, and just mismatched vibes in comparison to the prior two movies just make this an overall weak film and end of a trilogy for me. Plus, Harry trying to claim a redemption arc right at the end of a trilogy when he's been unlikable since movie 1 is so poorly done and handled here. On the other hand, the thing that I liked in this was that Flint Marko has a solid storyline, and I liked how that linked to Uncle Ben via the accidental shooting and death that occurred. It's a powerful scene toward the end where he explains how it happened and that all he was doing, whether right or wrong, was for his sick daughter. Sandman is a fun villain in this, but when joining forces with Venom, who I wasn't a fan of in this, does weaken the intensity of the fight and my overall opinion of the film as a whole. Next up is Spider-Man Far From Home. On my first watch, I actually enjoyed this one, but on a rewatch, its flaws are plain in sight for all to see. I know a lot of people dislike the fact that Peter isn't in New York in this one, but I'll be honest, the locations didn't bother me here. It was more a villain and story aspect that lets this down for me. The Mysterio plot is so silly to me now. We are really just gonna hand over Stark glasses to this guy when we know Peter idolized Tony and would have treasured anything he gave him. Even if he didn't feel ready for its power, I just can't see him giving them away, unless it was to someone he's known and trusted for a long time, not to Mysterio who he literally just met. The MJ and Peter stuff is really cute here, and I like how this is a slow burn romance for them both. Overall, I just wasn't feeling this one the second time round. I can only think that the first time around, the visual effects tricked me because I do think they're well done, but the story leaves me wanting something better here. At number 9 we have Spider-Man Homecoming. For Tom Holland's intro to his own Spider-Man movies, this one is decent overall. Peter in high school, he has a nerdy best friend in Ned, and a crush on a girl called Liz. It shows Peter as an immature kid who makes many mistakes, but is eager to learn and improve, and I really liked that. Michael Keaton as Vulture has a fantastic performance here, especially in the scene where they're sat in the car and he figures out that Peter is Spider-Man. It has that classic choice of, do you stay at the dance to be with the girl you've had a crush on for a long time, or do you do the right thing for the greater good and go disrupt Vulture's plans? I will say that in terms of critiques for me, I didn't think the field trip aspects were paced well enough for me, and they weren't integrated well enough to the bigger picture here for me to be really locked in with the story. Also, this is purely a me issue, but I'm here for Spider-Man stuff, and I don't care for the MCU, so Iron Man appearing here was a nothing burger for me. It makes sense he appears due to being Peter's mentor, but I didn't care for it. 8th place is Spider-Man. Now I know this is probably when some people start sharpening knives and pitchforks, but just hear me out for a second. This is a solid opening movie to a trilogy and has some wonderful Peter Parker and Spider-Man parts to it, as well as one of the best live-action Spidey villains with the Green Goblin played by Willem Dafoe. One thing that's clear here, to me at least, is that the chemistry between MJ and Peter feels off. They have clear goals and intentions, but that romantic chemistry just wasn't there for me. Disagree if you must, but I just didn't see it. Despite the romance being a miss, the comedic timing in this I found to be a nice touch and a great change of pace. J. Jonah Jameson is such a dick, but his one-liners always crack me up. And I also love when Peter is learning how to use his webs on the rooftop, as it's both silly and fun and has those Spider-Man quips we love. I do feel this is a solid opener for a Spider-Man trilogy. A classic villain at its core, Peter's origin story, comedy and tragedy, Harry, MJ, Ben and May, all the core components one would wish for from a Spidey movie are here, but overall the chemistry between the romantic leads was weak, and personally I just like the films above this just that little bit more. Coming in at number 7 is Spider-Man Brand New Day. Now while this does what its title says in bringing Holland's Peter into a brand new day and narrative, it is once again a victim of the MCU that has this Spidey trapped in its web. It is a far better starting point than Homecoming, but still has too much of the MCU dictating what it can and can't do for my liking. After the events of No Way Home, I was hopeful and perhaps naive that finally Tom Holland would get his standalone Spider-Man movie to shine. Just like Andrew and Tobey before him, get a movie with depth, a dedicated Spider-Man villain at the center, and some fantastic scenes to be memorable for years to come. But this falls short of that, and it definitely isn't down to the acting performances here, as the performances here are brilliant, especially from Holland as Peter Parker. I love the mutation parts and the loneliness of this Peter. The way it touches on genuine mental health struggles is so important for this era we currently live in, and I really appreciated how the dynamic between Peter and MJ is in this, even if it's heartbreaking. There's some fantastic fighting sequences here with clear choreography inspired by the Insomniac Spider-Man video games and callbacks to comic book covers that fans adore. My main issues here lie with the fact that while Spider-Man is at the center of it all, he is overshadowed by the glaring eye of the MCU and what is to come after this. Jean Grey takes on an interesting narrative in this, and while Sadie Sink's performance is by no means bad, I have to reiterate how I was hoping for a dedicated Spider-Man villain at its core. Would it have been so hard to have brought in a Spider-Man villain we haven't seen take the spotlight in a live-action movie yet? Perhaps a Mr. Negative or someone of the like? For all the improvements it makes, it's still held back by the studio higher-ups who wish to integrate these worlds together for additional promotion and revenue. As I've said prior, I do not care for the MCU. I'm literally just here having fun as a Spider-Man fan. So if you disagree with me and love the MCU as a whole, I totally would understand why you would place this one higher on the list. It's an enjoyable film with flaws that I can't overlook per se, but I reckon I could still sit back and enjoy this on a rewatch in the future. I'm just hoping they use this brand new day as a solid place to branch off from what I'm assuming is a second Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy. Number 6 is Spider-Man 2. I know for a lot of people this would be their number 1 pick, and it's understandable to see why. For me, this is my favourite of the Tobey trilogy, as I feel this embodies what both Peter Parker and Spider-Man are all about. He's constantly fighting his inner demons to figure out what he should do and who he wants to be, and I just love the emotional rollercoaster he goes on. He faces financial, academic, emotional, and job trouble, as he cannot juggle being a civilian and Spider-Man at the same time. Peter Parker is supposed to represent that everyday person, as, like Stan Lee said, anyone can wear the mask. These struggles are relatable and bring us closer to Peter, and make us root for his success even more when it comes to helping Aunt May, rekindling with MJ, getting his powers back, and getting his life on track. One of my favourite Spider-Man villains is at the heart of this one, with the Doc Ock story. I've always found him a fun villain, as well as a really complex individual to understand. That's always been for me the best part about most Spider-Man villains. You can understand how and why they got to where they did. At times you can sympathise with them, as they never intended to harm others. It's just a misjudged experiment that goes wrong more often than not. My favourite part in this, as I'm sure many others feel the same way, is the train scene. The way we get to see Spider-Man's true strength and intellect here is wonderful, and I love how everyone on the train looks after him when he saves them, and they promise to keep his identity a secret. Spider-Man is all about doing things for the greater good, and to me this entire sequence sums that up perfectly. The downsides to this one, just like in the other Raimi Spidey movies, was the relationship and chemistry between MJ and Peter. They dumb her down just to be a love interest with no real depth at all here, and therefore a core part of this narrative falls flat as the romantic arcs suffer. This is supposed to be the ultimate couple that we root for and support, and for me it's just not written, performed, or handled in the correct manner for what a romantic arc should be. 5th place is The Amazing Spider-Man. This to me is my favourite Peter Parker origin story, as it feels very true to that of a teenager with the edgy attitude that he has. Now, don't get it twisted, just because this is my favourite origin doesn't necessarily mean it's the best origin, but this is the one I enjoy rewatching and talking about the most. I know a lot of people hate the narrative here with Peter's parents, but I genuinely don't mind it at all. It links him to various people we know, and creates a different narrative direction from the other live-action movies. The domino effect at play here I felt was wonderfully done too. Peter thinks he knows everything, and doesn't need to listen, and because of his teenage stubbornness, it costs him dearly. He forgets to pick up May from her work, and thus gets a reality check from Uncle Ben, regarding how he needs to step up for those who he loves, and who love him. Peter storming off inevitably leads to Ben's death, and thus his first lesson in dealing with the consequences of one's own actions. I also really enjoyed Connor's storyline here, and how Peter goes about defeating him. In the sewers he builds multiple webs for each tunnel, and perches on them like a spider would, and waits to see which web vibrates. This then tells him where the lizard is hiding. The way this Spidey fights too feels much more arachnid-like as opposed to other iterations who fight more up close with their fists, so I enjoy that unique aspect to him too. I just really enjoy this, and how it sets us up perfectly for a sequel with the whole Captain Stacy death, and how he says to stay away from Gwen for her own safety. The way Andrew swings, does tricks, the genuine chemistry between his Peter and Gwen here, there's just layers of connective tissue at play that work wonderfully together, and I love it a lot. Just missing out on a top 3 spot is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Of course, it's a visual and audible delight to experience and extends this world to new heights, but personally, I find the pacing to feel a little off at times. Miles is an awesome character, and he really has evolved in this one alongside the other Spidey-like people we meet along this journey. I like the Spot being such an important villain here, and how we begin exploring the idea of anomalies and canon events, and how we just cannot interrupt or change them. This idea of Miles being the original anomaly and thus has unintentionally sent all of these universes into a spiral is so well thought out and explained here. The Spot's origin story for becoming vengeful and a villain makes complete sense once we are shown how and why it happened. The downside to this for me, which might be a thing others really enjoy, is the cliffhanger ending. It just feels like such a knife in the chest even when you know it's coming. I'm sure my opinion on that matter may change when Beyond the Spider-Verse eventually drops, and I can watch both parts one after the other. But currently, as its own movie, the final third of this feels a little off. I think it's a very personal thing for me, but I do really like when I can watch a movie without needing to accompany it with another one in order to find complete enjoyment. And this one, while still ridiculously good, and without a doubt one of the most beautiful and well handcrafted animated movies of all time, is something that I feel would benefit from watching both parts back to back when Beyond the Spider-Verse drops. Every other film on this list, for me, has a solid conclusion that could leave you satisfied once the credits roll, whereas this one, to me, feels like it requires you to watch the next one instantly. But, of course, it's still an excellent film, otherwise it wouldn't be number 4 on this list. My bronze medal winner is Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, I know some people think that this is an overrated nostalgia bait of a movie, but to me, I eat this up every single time. It has clear flaws for sure, but the highest highs completely triumph over those flaws for me. It brings together the best part of these 3 live-action Spider-Men and has them work together and use all their individual knowledge to defeat a greater evil as a team, which I loved. This is essentially the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate of Spider-Man movies, as truly everyone is here. Iconic villains, incredible fight sequences, meaningful messages at its core, and I love it for how it bundles all of those things together. The message at the heart of this, to me, I think is so important. Despite past experiences teaching you that you are trapped in a cycle of chaos and destruction, it doesn't mean that you have to continue in that loop. All it takes is one person, one event, or one scenario to break the chain. This is about learning and healing. We could just send the villains back and have them die, or we could heal them and change the curse. And there's so many emotional beats here that get me, and I know it's nostalgia, but dude, when Andrew's Spidey saves Tom's MJ in the way he knows would have saved his Gwen was so sad, but also beautiful too. May's death was sad for sure, but I think other family member deaths have been portrayed on screen far better in other Spidey movies for me. Choosing an outcome to protect the world instead of your own selfish desires is such a true Spider-Man move, and his final moments with MJ and Ned knowing him are killer each and every time. Totally can understand those of you who dislike this for all the reasons that I do like it, and as I said, I'm aware it has very clear flaws that I'm not denying. If a film is fun, then I'm willing to overlook some things for sure, and this one is definitely an enjoyment fest for me. Grabbing my silver medal is probably a movie that in these sorts of rankings is very divisive, and that is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. You either love or hate this movie, I feel like, and so people get very heated in debates over this, but for me, I love it so much. Andrew Garfield is my Spider-Man, and I love his growth in this movie compared to the first. It truly feels like Peter has learned so many important lessons from the first installment, but yet he's still so young that mistakes are going to keep plaguing his life as long as he is Spider-Man. While I don't think romantic relationships are the most important element to a Spider-Man movie, I do believe this version of romance is undeniably the best in any Spider-Man movie we have gotten thus far. Gwen and Peter here are just incredible, and the narrative of the will they won't they due to this ever-growing concern for Gwen's safety that Peter promised her late father is so well handled here for me because it's not perfect. It's messy as hell, and that in itself feels so real, and it adds depth to Peter's struggles of trying to live a normal life whilst juggling being Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield portrays the burden of the mask effortlessly here, and has this kind of distant stare that he does that I feel is just perfect for what needs to be conveyed to us, the audience. Electro's arc in this? Yeah, I like it. Sue me. Is it perhaps a little goofy? For sure. Could the script have been written better for him? Absolutely. But this still is a great story for a villain. He's a flawed individual, a loner, and seeks happiness within Spider-Man, little interactions with strangers, and the voices inside his own mind. It adds layers to the story because this is a vulnerable and mentally ill man taken advantage of and ridiculed one time too many. The scene in Times Square sums this up perfectly. Max is finally noticed by people, the world even, but his moment of fame is interrupted by Spider-Man, and not only does he become a nobody once more, but his idol and someone he thought was his friend has forgotten him. This is real and raw because how many more Maxes are out there on the street each and every day forgotten about and left behind and forced to make up narratives in their head to feel like they're a part of something. Electro's actions or intent when filled with electricity are never okay, but it showcases the human mind and how awful people can become when they're mistreated and overlooked for no good reason other than that they're different or weird. Gwen's death is of course the point everyone remembers and talks about here, and rightfully so as it's devastating. The fight sequence prior and the build up is so good in my opinion, and the way this all comes to a shattering end within the clock tower, when this movie begins within the inner workings of a wristwatch, is just chef's kiss. All of our Spider-Men have experienced loss in their tales, but to me, no one has portrayed actual heartbreak as well as Andrew does here. It is heartbreaking and just a wonderfully acted sequence that I don't think can ever be overlooked. Now, one thing I do solidly agree on with the big critique discussions of this film is the inclusion of Harry Osborn and his Green Goblin arc. While it impacts the scene I just discussed with him being here, I do feel like his change was rushed. It almost feels like Electro should have been the final fight. Yes, we still sadly lose Gwen, but this ends with Harry turning evil away from Peter, and that then sets up a Goblin arc for the third movie. Of course, we all know TASM 3 hasn't happened yet, and it seems very unlikely that it ever will, but it could have done with the trilogy concluding with a Green Goblin main villain arc and some Black Cat action, seeing as we do have a Felicia in this. It's very undercooked when it comes to Harry, which is very valid criticism of this film for sure, but I cannot deny that the highest highs here way overshadow and overtake the lowest lows for me in a way that genuinely I enjoy this film a lot. I'm not mad at the parent side plot here, as at least it tries to do something unique and different. It doesn't mean it's perfect or anything, but it adds depth to this universe and this Peter, and I think it makes sense for these movies to be like that. Many will disagree with me on this, and that's okay, but for me, Andrew is my Spider-Man through and through, and I love his movies. The swinging, the quips, the romance, the cinematics, the colours, the side plots, it just all makes sense for me. To you, it may be a hot mess, and that's okay, but to me, it has everything within it that I want from a Spider-Man movie, and truly embodies how I picture Spider-Man to be. Finally, my gold medal Spider-Man movie, and in my personal opinion, the best of them all, is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This is not only a perfect superhero movie to me, but also a perfect animated movie too. And honestly, a perfect movie in general. It feels like a comic book comes to life and it's filled to the brim with love, care, and the energy that to me Spider-Man is all about. Miles is such a good character here, and I love all the character arcs that play out in this coming of age movie. But also, the simple lessons and ideas that a lot of us need to hear are within this masterpiece too. It shows us how even though Peter Parker's Spider-Man is adored by the city, this doesn't mean Miles has to try and be just like him. There's room for a new Spider-Man, and he can be his own thing. There's beauty in being unique, as well as taking inspiration from those around you who you love and look up to. The film is beautiful to look at, but some scenes really do stand out as legendary to me. When he first visits the Spider-Man suit behind the glass, he's looking up at it in awe. A fan of this legendary suit feeling inferior to this power, but once he accepts that he is fit to wear the mask, and he is his own Spider-Man, when he later revisits that same suit behind the glass, he's perfect for it. Aligned as if the suit was on him and ready to save the world. His reflection matching up with its face shows that he is Spider-Man. He has grown up and he is ready for this next chapter. I also adore when he takes that leap of faith, as is such a moment. Sometimes we wait and wait until we feel ready, but like Peter told Miles, you won't know when you're ready. It's a leap of faith. This I feel speaks to so many people, whether it's because of anxiety, waiting for the right job, the right time to confess your love to someone, to rekindle a broken down friendship, to right some wrongs. Essentially, no matter what it is, if you wait for the right time or to feel ready in order to do it, you may never do it. You gotta be brave and take that leap, even if it's difficult and everything within you tells you not to. The beauty of this scene is how Miles is fighting his body here. When he takes that leap, the glass from the skyscraper breaks, showing how his sticky spider hands were trying to stay stuck, and he was just too nervous to jump. Despite this fear, he did the leap of faith anyway in a mind over matter way. The music elevates this to even greater heights here. The way the lyrics progress from saying "What's up, danger?" to "Can't stop me now" is just perfect for this scene, as it, along with the animation, does all the talking without Miles needing to utter a single word. Even more beautiful is the fact that it slows down when he's falling after the leap, but the scene is flipped upside down. Instead of it showing him falling to the ground, it's presented that he's actually rising, which showcases this new growth he now has, and that a new era has begun in his journey, and to me, that is so poetic. There is so much in this that I could sit and dissect piece by piece for quite some time, but I'll avoid that as you don't need that from me. But this is just a feel-good film that appeals to people of any age. And I'll be honest, it's really disheartening that so many Spider-Man fans refuse to watch this and Across the Spider-Verse due to them being animated instead of live action. You're literally shooting yourselves in the foot and missing legendary art. This is just such a well-rounded film, and I adore it so much. If you need a positive dopamine rush, this is the film I definitely recommend for sure. So that's my personal ranking. What is yours? Let me know in the comments section below, and feel free to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this in the future. And don't forget, with great power comes great responsibility. I'll catch you in the next video. Goodbye.